While putting together the news, we tend to come across a ton of shoddy reporting and misleading headlines. So for a bit of fun, we are going to look at some of the worst offenders and breaking down the real stories behind the less than truthful titles. First up, we have an article by The Telegraph, which reads, "Iran has declared war on Britain and the West." In short, Iran has done no such thing, and even the writer himself makes no such claim that a war has been waged between Iran and any other country. The entire article was talking about how Iran has started selling offensive drones to Russia for its invasion of Ukraine, and it doesn't even mention Britain, unless it was lumping it in with other Western nations. Absolute top tier reporting. Second on our list, we have The Guardian, with a headline that reads, "Huge planet killer asteroid discovered, and it's heading our way." The story in question refers to the biggest potentially hazardous asteroid discovered since 2014, standing at a size of anywhere between 1.1 and 2.3 kilometers wide. However, the likelihood of the enormous rock colliding with Earth is extremely low and would happen centuries from now, if it ever happened at all. Next up, we have the Daily Mail, with some truly hard-hitting journalism. Why nobody should be using the thumbs up emoji in 2022, and the 10 symbols only old people use that have Gen Z rolling their eyes. As you might imagine, the source of this finding wasn't a peer-reviewed article, but rather a random Reddit user, who they don't even credit, who stated that they found the thumbs up sign can come off as confrontational. With this in mind, this didn't stop the writer from making this person an official representative, going as far as to say that the entire generation feels attacked when someone uses the thumbs up sign. In terms of the 10 emojis that only old people use, the article doesn't mention this at all, but rather includes an image that refers to a poll, which was never cited. The article ends with the input of a business consultant named Sue Elson, and after a bit more digging, I would find she went to the University of South Australia. As someone quite familiar with this institution, I know for a fucking fact that the other two public universities within Adelaide make fun of it relentlessly.
Get into the degree you want through UniSA guaranteed entry. It's a sure thing.
We now come to digital trends, which asks, does the Google Pixel 7 have a headphone jack? The answer is no. Moving on, we have an article from Smart Company, which reads, "Insanity. PayPal reneges on a $2,500 fine for users spreading misinformation." The initial story saw PayPal's newest policy update state that users who would send, post, or publish misinformation would be breaking the company's user policy. This was then linked to another user agreement, which stated that violating the company's rules could leave a person subject to up to $2,500 in damages. After backlash around what many criticized as a potential danger to free speech, PayPal would later apologize for the poor wording and would later update the policy to read, "Provide false, inaccurate, or misleading information." What this essentially means is that a person can't just sell a shitty PlayStation knockoff or advertise the Saints Row remake as being a good game without repercussions. I've since been able to find 0 cases of PayPal fining a person for saying things that are verifiably untrue. However, I did find a lot of people who didn't bother to check for themselves. The article didn't include the user policy in question. However, those who want to check that out for themselves can find it in the description. Moving on to another particularly dumb article, with the headline reading, "Universal Studios Orlando closes location permanently." In short, the Orlando theme park isn't closing, but rather a single store inside the park is temporarily shutting down while it moves to another location within the same park. In a way I struggle to understand, this article somehow stretched itself out to nearly 500 words. We now come to a story by Tom's Guide, reading, "Don't use PS5 or Xbox Series X for video streaming. Here's why." The article basically states that using either of these consoles for streaming uses more power than with just a TV alone. It then talks about alternatives such as Chromecast or Apple TV before leaving their Amazon affiliate links to these products at the bottom of the page. In another gift to gamers watching, Kotaku would write an article titled, "Here's how you can easily fix your Nintendo Switch's limited storage." 719 words later, and I would learn that the answer is to buy an SD card. To round off the gamer articles, and gamesmanuals.com shares a guide on how to get free premium currency for the game Multiversus. In short, the nearly 150 word article tells us that getting premium currency without paying is impossible. We've now all become smarter. Moving on to a website called MoneyWise, and we have, US shoppers should think twice before buying from these two stores. The two stores in question seem to be Walmart and Amazon, but the entire article appears to be an ad for an extension that allows users to compare prices from other websites. As someone who's done their fair share of sponsors, I know a fucking call to action when I see one. We now come to an article by The Guardian, reading, US clinics offer free vasectomies in wake of Supreme Court's Roe reversal. This can be seen as misleading at best, as the story only talks about a single mobile clinic, affectionately called the Nutcracker, which was funny enough to make me feel as if it didn't waste my time. For our last story, we went straight to old reliable, as the Sun always delivers. The headline claims that a man earns $128,000 a month from his side hustle. However, every single part of that headline was wrong. The story refers to a New York man quitting his job to start a bakery with his wife. The $128,000 was therefore split between the two, while the article also mentions at least $43,200 in expenses, which we don't know whether was factored into the net profit. The second half of the article went on to list other strange side hustles, like an Oregon man who rents out his swimming pool for a ridiculous amount of money. These were just some of the articles I managed to find within an afternoon, and although there might be a long discussion we could make about the online revenue model for journalism, degrading incentives for writing anything worthwhile, we won't be doing that today. Hit the buttons underneath if you feel so compelled, but until next time, have a fucking good one.